Alright, y'all. Welcome back to Above It All. 2 Trump videos in one day. I know this will go well. Donald Trump had a rally either yesterday or the day before. I think it was the day before. I guess it's actually not a rally. It's technically like an actual event for the White House, but he presented it and treated it like a rally because why not? And we have some very choice clips here from the funniest president, since the one that got stuck in the bathtub because they were obese.
And we have the best tests. We have tests that 2 months ago didn't even exist. Our great companies came up with things, Abbott Laboratories and so many others. They came up with things at Roche. They came up with things that nobody even believes. So we have...
came up... Just... The problem with Trump is that, you really have to play it back in your head, the way he speaks English, and just think to yourself, can you imagine ever saying things in this fucking way? Listen to this.
They came up with things at Roche. They came up with things that nobody even believes. So we have...
They came up with things that nobody even believes.
The best testing in the world. It could be the testings, frankly, overrated. Maybe it is overrated. But whatever they start yelling, we want more, we want more. They always say, we want more, because they don't want to give you credit. Then we do more, and they say, we want more. But we have the greatest testing in the world. But what we want is we want to get rid of that. And we have the best...
all right, so this continues here.
We have more cases than anybody in the world. But why? Because we do more testing. When you test, you have a case. When you test, you find something is wrong with people. If we didn't do any testing, we would have very few cases. They don't want to write that. It's common sense. So we test much more, many times. South Korea, you hear about? I spoke with the president of South Korea. I spoke with many different presidents. Don't forget.
I spoke with the president of South Korea, comma, I spoke with many different presidents. Yeah, when you test for something, that's when the case starts. I guess in a way, if you want to just strictly define the word case as in charted in a medical document, sure. Why not? But remember when Trump was going, we have 15 cases, believe me, there's only 15 cases. Believe me, many people are saying that this is going to be bad, this is going to be big, and this is going to be bad. But we've only got 15 cases, the quarantine, everything's fine, believe me. And then all of a sudden, when actually we start testing, turns out, no, 85,000 people bare minimum have already died. Oops. Obviously this is a different timeline here, but, it's over 1 million cases in the United States. At this point, I don't even know. I think it's 1.3 million or something. You keep thinking, no. I've said this before earlier in my Joe Biden and Trump videos. I said the same thing. They both have this factor about them where you see a clip, you see a statement, you see something about them, and your first reaction is, this can't be real? The soul, what little of your soul is remaining after these fucking multiple years of just pure torture and pain and suffering, what little in there is still trying to come out and say, I'm alive! Look, I'm a nice person! I have hope! I am optimistic for the future! And then you see something like this, or like this.
Warriors, aren't they? When this terrible virus reached our shores, each of you has worked relentlessly to get the vital supplies to our healthcare warriors. And they are warriors, aren't they? When you see them going into those hospitals and they're putting the stuff that you deliver, but they're wrapping themselves and the doors are opening and they're going through the doors and they're not even ready to go through those doors. They probably shouldn't. But they can't get there fast enough, and they're running into death just like soldiers run into bullets, in a true sense. I see that with the doctors and the nurses and so many of the people that go into those hospitals. It's incredible to see. It's a beautiful thing to see, but The moment this terrible virus reached our shores, each of you has worked relentlessly.
There are so many videos of doctors and nurses being overwhelmed. Like hospitals in New York City are being overwhelmed to the point where they're piling bodies in refrigerator trucks and U-Haul trucks and all this stuff. You see nurses out there talking about how they have too many patients and they're juggling too many patients. And sometimes patients die because they get patients confused and will administer a wrong medication or, in other words, medical malpractice. You see these situations where doctors and nurses are committing suicide. This is something that has been an alarming increase. Doctors and nurses are literally not quitting, right? They are killing themselves because what they have seen has permanently scarred them. I was going to say for the rest of their lives, but I mean, in a literal sense, because they ended them. Like the thing about this is it's when you sign up to be a soldier, in a way, you prepare yourself for what entails being a soldier, for what being a soldier entails. When you sign up to be a doctor or a nurse, you think you're going to see some gross stuff. Don't be squeamish, right? But you're going to save people's lives? And then this pandemic hits, and all of a sudden, there's death after death. You see 12 people die in a single hour. You see 30 people die in a single hour. You see people lying there knowing if only you had more resources. Knowing if only you had more time. Knowing if only you had gotten there sooner, this person would be alive. Knowing that the Trump administration is doing almost nothing to assist you. And yet he has the audacity to go out there and praise them as if oh, they're heroes. Yes, they are heroes, right? But it's not a beautiful thing to see. Yes, it's great to see us working together to help each other, but you're the President of the United States. You can do things to help. You can fund these hospitals. You can fund the training for more doctors. You can, people in medical school should be able to accelerate the rate of which they get through medical school. People going through medical school should be able to have all of their bills paid for. This whole notion of there are people out there that are studying to become doctors and nurses, right? And they're going through student loan payments. They're having difficulty going to school and learning even online. These people that want to help the situation, it's not like you go to war, you just grab a gun, you do a few push-ups, and you're out to fucking sea, right? There are people out there that want to be trained to help, and there's no adequate resourcing to be able to do that. The Defense Production Act should have been used to create ventilators starting in January. It should have been used to create all kinds of medical equipment. But instead, we're in a situation where, at least with New York City, which is right now the epicenter of the world, really? You're seeing that just they're at the borderline of being completely overrun. And when you're overrun, that's where exponential death occurs. And who knows? If this starts hitting rural communities as heavily as it's doing to New York City, where there's one hospital in a town of 15,000 people, say 3,000 people get the virus, say 1,000 people are hospitalized, these are numbers on top of course, it's not like the pandemic has paused everyone else getting sick and for other reasons, or getting hurt, or, murders, or, people in, assaults or victims in muggings or whatever. It's not like these are disappearing in a pandemic. If anything, they're only worsening. So it's not only are there all these cases of the coronavirus going through these hospital systems, but there's probably an increase in cases of everything else, right? So it's our infrastructure is not ready for this, right? You compare us to South Korea, fuck. Right? It's amazing how competence and basic human empathy goes such a long way when it comes to treating something like this, right? Like, this is... like, it's one of those things where, yeah, it's hilarious, but it's also just so fucking offensive that it's just like, again, what little of your soul is left is trying to tell you everything's going to be okay, and then you see something like this. Like, you see something like fucking this.
We have more cases than anybody in the world. But why? Because we do more testing. When you test, you have a case. When you test, you find something is wrong with people. If we didn't do any testing, we would have very few cases. They don't want to write that. It's common sense. So we test much more, many, many times. South Korea, you hear about? I spoke with the president of South Korea, spoke with many different presidents. Don't forget, we have more cases than anybody.
Many different presidents. I